Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Torelli. I'm the manager. I'm the chairman of the Orange County Industrial Development Agency, and we have the board here present today for our monthly meeting on Wednesday, October 20th. To start the meeting, I'd like everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'll look at one out there. Yeah, exactly. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bill, could you call the roll call board members, please?
All right, roll call. Torelli.
Present.
Dowdett. Present. Gary. Odoc, he'll be on later. Riskevich. Present. Cambury.
Present.
5 of 6 members are here currently.
Great. If you could just let us know when Dr. Odoc zooms in, when he is available, so we can add into any of the stuff that we have to vote on.
I did ask him to text me so that we look out for him, because it doesn't always pop up on the screen.
Sure. Perfect. All right. Next on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Everyone should have received a copy of the minutes. Pretty basic, straightforward from our September meeting. Any changes, corrections, discussion on the minutes? With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve them. Dean, can I get a second? Leslie? Bill, call the roll on that?
Torelli.
Yes.
Dowdett.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Cambury.
Yes.
Riskevich.
Yes.
Okay. 5 ayes. 5 ayes. All right, well, sure, minus 1 and 6. Thank you. Second, that was by
Leslie. Next on the agenda will be the financial reports, which I believe is in the back of your staple packet, correct? Pages 9, 10, 11, correct?
correct.
Yep. If you'll walk us through that, please.
Yeah, you're saying this is September reconciled financials. UHY, our outside accounting firm, is preparing this. It's everything we've been seeing, but the big thing to note here is the addition of the $1.265 million in restitution added as income with the IDA there. Everything else pretty much is on pace with what we've been doing, including our efforts to cut everything the best we could, at least be most cost effective. And then the last page is really our balance. You're seeing a balance total of everything, all our money market CDs and cash on hand, a total of just over $8 million. And this does include, again, what was deposited from the restitution from the criminal case. And we are awaiting money from the Warwick Valley LDC reimbursement. We're expecting that really now. That is in process, a reimbursement of $2 million for the money we put in for the CBD accelerator. That'll be coming back, so to see advised that will be added into our balances as well.
Do you have a prediction on, or an estimation on when we'll see that before the end of the year?
Yeah, there was a little delay. Just the attorney for the LDC was busy with a couple other litigious matters, it sounds like, and he promised to get the documents to our attorneys by the end of this week, and they were delivered, I think, yesterday afternoon. I want to say it was late last night. I think it was maybe a little before 8 p.m. So they're in hand. They had not included the county attorney and Donna Badura. The county attorney, of course, has done a lot of work for us. So forwarded that early this morning on to them and try and get the ball rolling. Landon, do you happen to know if you saw that? Just because I'm concerned about my email.
We offered comments back to the LDCs early before 5 today, just language, but nothing that we don't see as a problem.
Yeah, this is Russ. So if I may, just really quickly, Don and I spoke probably about an hour ago, and Sharon and I are on the same page, and we're going to circle the wagons next week. So we don't see this as being an issue.
Great.
Excellent. So yeah, that's just should be a matter of a couple of weeks, definitely before the end of the year. Don't see any reason why we won't be able to do that.
In review of the financials, anyone have any questions, concerns, discussion, any line items that you want to discuss or go over? Straight. I mean, we've been doing this now for a couple months, and the line items have been pretty straightforward. We continue to show the positiveness that we've done over the past bunch of months, all the stuff that we voted on, and I don't see any issues on my end. Anybody? That, with no discussion or any questions, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the financials as presented. So moved. Thank you, Paul. Can I get a second? Phil, if you want to call the roll on the financials?
Torelli?
Yes.
Doubted? Yes. Pieri?
Yes.
Riskevich?
Yes.
Tamburri?
Yes.
5 ayes.
Next on the agenda is review of investment options for the fund balances. As you saw in our financials, we have approximately $8.1 million in fund balances in various accounts, with another potential with another $2 million coming very soon thereafter. Last month, we asked staff to put together a listing of options in regards to banking. Before we go into the specifics, I'd like to get the opinion of council in regards to if we decide to move forward with placing some money in some investments. Do you believe that the stuff that is highlighted and the stuff that is not, Bill, if you can give,
Oh, sure. Sorry about that.
would we need to amend our investment policy to include stuff if we decided to go with stuff that's not in there, or is that not necessary? I mean, I hate to put you on the spot for that, Langdon, but
No,
just,
this stuff looks like it's in our investment policy, generally. Not in our policy, we should amend the policy.
yeah. What I mean by that is not the investment vehicle, but the institutions. For some reason, I think the previous board and boards have approved specific institutions without a qualifier. It was just who they wanted to qualify. I don't think there was a qualifying factor. I've not seen one yet. In some of the rates that we're seeing in this listing, if we decide to go that route, we should make a determination, I think, before we decide which to go with, if we want to add, if we need to amend our investment policy to add the institution names.
If the prior board had a policy of named entities, then I would amend it by naming different entities.
Just so it's equivalent. That's what I thought, and that's what I was going towards, but I want to get your opinion.
And it certainly wasn't there at that time, but it does appear by looking at this list and other information we know about guidelines for IDAs in this, that these are sizable banks over
Yes.
a certain threshold, clearly.
Yeah.
Orange Bank and Trust being the only community bank that I see here, other
Like major
$2 billion
financial institutions.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'll pose a question to the board. I would like to be able to have a full list of things that we can be able to choose from if we decide to do that. But I think the first step is deciding, do we want to add the ones that are not highlighted to our list in our investment policy as a potential? I think that's something that we should discuss and potentially vote on if we feel comfortable with that. All the names that we've seen here are ones that literally have brick and mortar in Orange County, which is a nice thing. But they're also, a lot of membership-driven and/or locality-driven entities that are a little bit smaller than some of the larger financial institutions, but all banks that I think many of us have either had friends or worked with companies that have done business with these banks. So I feel very comfortable with it, but I want to open up the discussion and then maybe even a vote to see if we want to add that to our investment. Any ideas, any questions, concerns?
I could make, wouldn't have to invest in them, but
Just that's an
it's
option.
actually a good idea to include them as an option by name if these are them, or if there's others, it's probably
And we
better
can always
better
amend
to
it.
have more
Yeah.
than less, right?
Yeah. I think this is a good smattering, we asked staff to do this, to find the ones that are out there that are doing stuff in the commercial realm, but more importantly, that are doing stuff with some of the projects that we're dealing with in some of our small, medium, and large-sized businesses. A lot of these are. I don't see one that we're specifically excluding, but like you said, we can always amend it later on.
So if you added all these names, you'd have 16 different choices on just this.
Just this list alone, yeah. Questions, concerns, discussion?
No, I think you should add all the local banks.
Yeah. More options are always better, I guess.
I can't
All right.
that's for sure.
So with that, if there's any other questions or discussion points, I'd like to entertain a motion to add the 7 different financial institutions that are on our list options of local banking institutions dated 10/18/21, and we can put this as part of our record to add those. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve those.
should we list the names audibly just in this motion?
Yes, you Good. So you want to add some credit unions in here?
Mhm.
There are some rules within the credit union. And I'm subject to my final approval of that. There are rules related to credit unions, and there's always controversy for some reason about local governments not being able to invest in credit unions. So that's why I'm guessing.
So that on the local government level, we're the,
Well, we're a municipality for purposes of,
for-
so yeah, I don't mind doing it, but I know there are prohibitions related to adding, investing in credit unions. So I don't mind putting in the motion, just subject to my
Subject to-
final, I'm gonna review it more.
More.
That's,
okay. So I'll make, I'd like to make the motion to add the Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, Valley Credit Union, EG Federal Credit Union, Empire State Bank, Greater Hudson Bank, Lakeland, Catskill Hudson financial institutions to our list of potential stuff to our investment policy. I'd like to make that motion. I'd like to get a second if possible. Leslie? If any discussion, questions, concerns? These are all going to be subject to opinion of council after further determination when reviewing local municipal law.
Russ, could you hear us or not?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute.
Are you aware of those issues I'm speaking of, where I think there's prohibitions in local government law about investing in credit unions for some reason?
I don't know if there's a prohibition against credit unions specifically. You are, as a public authority, limited as to what you can invest your money in. But I think what we should do is authorize what Mike has put forward, and then Langdon, you and I and your team can talk about whether or not credit unions raise an issue. I just don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
I think there is an issue there, but I don't mind doing it that way, and we'll just
Okay.
double check it.
Yeah, and I know that
Subject
you can't invest in stocks and equities, that type of thing. You're limited basically in a governmental obligation. So unfortunately, with the money that you have, the rate of return is going to be limited based upon state law.
We have a, I put it up, Leslie seconded. Any other further discussion? If not, Phil, I'll ask you to call the roll on that, please.
Okay. Farley?
Yes.
Dowdy? Yes. Pieri?
Yes.
Riskevich?
Yes.
Tamburri?
Yes.
5 ayes.
Secondly, in regards to this topic, we'd like to review, before we get into specific investment vehicles and or institutions, I think we should figure out the dollar amounts or dollar amount that we think that we can do potentially today, or if we may want to do today. And knowing right whether we don't have to do it all at once. We can diversify over time. We do a little bit today and continue to do it on a monthly basis as we see fit and as potentially rates change and such. Currently, if everyone can turn to that page in the last page of your packet, that staple, it'll show you where the money currently resides, meaning the balances as of the end of September and where that money currently resides in regards to that. And we could also decide, out of that 8.1 million, there is a certain percentage that we feel comfortable with today, if we want to move forward today. Last month, we talked about it and we didn't feel comfortable about it. I think we have a little bit more information, and we don't have to consummate these investments until our council has opined on the lending institutions, particularly that we just added to our policy. But more importantly, I think we could potentially start talking about dollar amounts. And, obviously you don't want to put all eggs in one basket or in one vehicle or in one institution, but I think we have some history on our side. History, from what I remember, and I'm not an expert on history, but from what I remember, multiple institutions would receive monies from the IDA to put in mostly certificates of deposits, because they were a higher yielding thing or an investment vehicle for a shorter to mid time period of time, so that the money would work for us. Because remember, we only have a certain amount of ways that we can earn income. One is through fee revenue, the other one through interest income. And right now, we don't have too much working on us funding. So, whether we decide to do maybe one or two or three types of investments, whether we want to limit it by institution, by dollar amount, whether if it's hundreds of thousands, $500,000, those type of things. Do we want to do you know, obviously you don't want them all due at the same time. From what I remember from being in banking, if you remember correctly, you can always get the principal out in a certificate of deposit. So if you do so early, then you just risk losing some of the interest as a penalty. So very, very safe in regards to putting in certificates of deposit. Money markets / savings accounts are obviously very liquid. You can take and put it in and out as you see fit, without a term. But obviously, I think we all are pretty versed in certificates of deposits and that, you know, different terms, different rates for different lengths of term. I feel very comfortable on the 8.1 million with putting approximately, I would think, $2 million into some sort of investment vehicle over the course of time. Like I said, it doesn't all need to be today, but I think we should at least get some of our money working for us. We can always decide later on if we want to do more, but I think we need to use this term, but dip our toe in the pond in regards to this agenda item. Now, if we think 2 million is good, that's roughly, I would say roughly 25% of what we have on hand. If we feel that 2 million is good, how would we want to divvy that up and what type of vehicles we want to put that in? Hundreds of thousands of, if we can go to the 10th degree and put them in a lot of different institutions. We can pick some of the institutions with, I would think, a term and a rate that we can agree upon, we think is good. And we could also continue to look at this market and continue to think about investing it over the period of time. Doesn't all need to be done today. I think having 25% of our money invested in something that is secured, that is, you know, at a term that is medium, I say short to medium, I feel very comfortable. I'd like to open up discussion to everybody else.
I'm comfortable with that. I think we should, and that amount, 25%, I think it's pretty good. Which, I mean, obviously we can't do the food, and we don't know about the union at this point, but, so we're just putting a portion at this point. I think it's
Okay. Leslie, do you feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
John?
I agree.
Paul? Yep. Okay, so I think, I hate to do it so regimented, right? But if we could vote upon, let's vote upon the 2 million as a base of money that we can use. I think if we feel comfortable with that, I think we bite this off in little steps and then we get into the specifics. So I feel comfortable with raising the point of putting on the floor for approval a $2 million balance to use. We don't all need to use it today. We'll decide that maybe at the next vote, right thereafter. But I would say let's vote on 2 million. I'd like to vote on $2 million to be able to use as putting it into some sort of investment vehicle. I get a second on that. Discussion? Anybody concerned with the 2 million being roughly 25% of what we have?
All OCIDA, of course.
All OCIDA. Yes. Yeah, we'll talk about this separately in OCFC, but that's a little bit different because it's got some different stuff. All right, with that, we have a first and a second.
Sorry, seconded?
John did.
I'm sorry.
So if you can call the roll on the $2 million number?
Yes. Torelli.
Yes.
Dowdid.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Tamburri.
Yes.
Wiskevich.
Yes.
5 ayes.
Next, this is how we skin the cat, right? I mean, how do you divvy up the funds? If we have $2 million, at what point do we want to, you know, what's the maximum type of investment we want to put in to any one institution or any one investment vehicle? I feel very comfortable with certificates of deposit that are 24 months or less, at least for some of this money. Obviously, we hadn't really done a vision plan capitalizing what our budget's going to be over the next 5 years. But knowing this is only roughly 25% of our money, and we have enough cash on hand to hopefully budget for what we're going to be talking about at the next agenda item about our budget, I feel very comfortable with taking $2 million and dividing it into maybe fourths, maybe $500,000 each, maybe $250,000 each, depending upon how we want to do it, into some various investment vehicles that are here, which what I'm highlighting, what I'm seeing on the certificates of deposit column, you'll see some that are at the 0.0 whatever numbers, but you also have some that are significantly more than that. I say significant in relative terms. Because what I've highlighted is our Orange Bank and Trust with a 6-month CD at 0.2, which is roughly 20 times or 10 times what it is at some of the larger institutions, and a 9-month at 0.25. Those are ones that I've highlighted in the upper section. And then in the lower section where we just voted upon, which obviously would be dependent upon council's opinion, obviously you're seeing some of the more local banks and smaller banks offering even a higher rate of return. Talking, I've highlighted a couple like some of the credit unions are at 0.4, 0.35. There's even one at a longer term one at 0.96 with Empire State Bank at the 36-month realm. So, and there's even one at Greater Hudson Bank at 1.2, which is, literally 10 times the amount of other CDs, or 100 times the amount of what savings accounts are at. Now, maybe on some of the longer stuff, we don't want to put as much money in. Now, maybe we dabble and do a smaller amount, $100,000 into some of the stuff that's 36 months. It's really an equation that we put together, and like I said, it doesn't all need to be done today, but I think we should potentially start thinking, and maybe even if we feel comfortable voting on some of this. Okay. So I think the way I'd like to present it, because we don't have a CFO that's an expert in this, but I've been in banking, or I was in banking for 12 years of employment. I think what we'd like to do is separate between the shorter stuff, 12 months and less, and anything over 12 months. That's one way to look at it. And I think if we have the $2 million that we have as a base, I think that maybe we want to put a certain percentage of that into the shorter term stuff, like an Orange Bank and Trust, 6 or 9 months type of thing. And then taking some smaller amounts, maybe putting them in some of the local institutions that are paying a little bit higher. The one that came out to mind, obviously the biggest one on the page is Greater Hudson Bank, 36 months at 1.2. Granted, we're not talking big money here, but when we really think about it, I think we did an analysis last month, get into a vehicle that can earn us $3,500 that pays for the gas and electric for all of our, for our home office. That's the order of magnitude that we're talking about. We're not talking about, making tons of money in this market in these rates, but it does help. So, does anyone have any opinions, or anyone want to?
One of the questions I have is like, if for fees, if you spread it out too much, if you go each and you really have fees as well, we're not looking at a lot of return, does it make sense to just stick it?
Yeah, usually with CDs, you don't have fees. Yeah,
Okay, no fees.
yes,
Okay.
yes, it's usually on the checking, on the stuff that you're doing a lot of business through. Usually on CDs, there's not an actual fee. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of paperwork. The more institutions we pick, the more paperwork for signatures we're going to have to do and those type of things, but that's just internal. But I think on the fee side, I don't think there's any fees associated with CD. So in this instance, I feel comfortable with taking, say, I'm just throwing this out. It's just the spaghetti on the wall, guys, like $500,000 and putting it in a 9-month CD at Orange Bank and Trust.
I was gonna suggest.
Yeah. 9 months from now, it's really, $500,000 is not that much to, it's not, we don't need it liquid today. Then I'm thinking a couple $100,000 in some of these larger ones, and particularly if council agrees or can opine on that once they have time to review it, maybe that 36 month at 1.2. I don't think we've seen 1.2 in any of the rates for a couple of years now. This is pretty significant. Now, obviously, we don't want to put as much money, I don't think, but maybe we put $100,000 or $200,000 into a 36 month. And also look at maybe doing some other smaller ones. I don't know. I want to get everyone's opinion on it. I don't want to be the only one making a recommendation.
Greater Hudson and Empire both have good rates. Now, Sterling, we're already in, but it says not provided. Do they get that information on Sterling to see what their CD rates are? Do they not offer them?
Yeah, let's see, they responded to me.
Good point. I didn't highlight that, but yes, that's a good point. Some of our money's already in the money market, so we're earning .075.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're,
They only provided money market, they did this last time, only provided money market rates right now. So, let me see if it's in one of his old, not offering. Yeah, it says they're,
this one.
yeah, they're flush with cash, so they're not
Okay.
They're not offering CDs right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
State of the market right now.
Whatever.
So, in order to just throw something out, so if we put 500,000 in like the 9-month Orange Bank and Trust, we put 250,000 in the Greater Hudson, 36-month at the 1.2, which is $250,000. $250,000 in the Empire State Bank at the 36-month at 9.6, at 0.96. That gets us a little bit invested in the 9-month short term, a little bit invested in the longer term, and then we have a little bit of money to play with, a little bit of money to invest in, probably in that middle term, that 1 year. You don't have everything at the same time.
Right.
You want to have these rolling, so when as rates change, we can, potentially take advantage of it. And we can always put more money in if we want to. We're only doing 25% of what we have. That gives us, $1 million invested in $1 million decided to go forward. It's still on the table to decide. And maybe we talk about doing these 12-month ones.
I'm back and forth with the Commissioner Fine. And what I'm learning here, and I feel ignorant that I'm your lawyer, but I can't tell, but I don't know finance. I don't pretend to know finance. But what I'm learning here is that you can easily invest $250. Anything above you invest $250 has to be securitized and collateralized somehow by the bank. So, and this is what Commissioner Havlo is telling me. She invests millions of dollars, and the bank pledges her security, and they give her security reports to explain how this stuff is securitized, money securitized. So you can easily do the 250s, these CDs in banks that are New York State banks. Anything above that, we'd have to talk to the bank about how do they securitize that. Now, honestly, I don't even know what it means.
Okay.
I don't know if that means it's securitized against some housing that I don't know. I don't pretend to know. It's not what I do for a living.
Securitized against fixed loans or,
I don't know. I just don't know what it means. So
Okay.
you could easily do the 250s, no issues there. Anything above that, we'll have to talk to the bank about. And what Commissioner Havlo is saying, she goes, banks will understand this.
Yeah.
Tell them you want to have something securitized, you want to give them $500,000, and they'll explain to you how. But that's, so I would easily do the 250s with no issue, and talk to the banks about how they securitize the other 250 on that one.
Do you think it's 250 by investment vehicle or 250 by institution?
I believe it's 250 by. But two banks have collateralized.
So with that said, I mean, maybe, we talked about 500,000 for Orange Bank and Trust. If 250 is what we need to do, like I said, we can always do more next month once we get more information, but I think it gives us the opportunity to at least start this. So I'll amend what I'm talking about to say 250,000 Orange Bank and Trust, 9 months. 250 for Greater Hudson Bank, 36 months. 250 for Empire, for 36 months. That's $750,000 out of the $2 million of eligible funds.
Let me get those one more time. 250 each to.
250 to Orange Bank and Trust, 9 months.
Yep.
250 to Greater Hudson Bank, 36 months. 250 to Empire State Bank, 36 months. Then I think we start looking at the stuff that's in the middle. If this is by institution, then we have to start looking at potentially some of the other institutions that are at that 12-month period. And the 12-month ones that are sticking out continue to fall in the white area of our listing. Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union at 0.25. Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union at 0.34. Obviously, that's 14 basis higher.
From those right now.
I'm not finding any approved for credit unions at all. I'm actually finding them.
Let's hold off on that for now.
But there's a couple of 12s in the approved already up top, maybe not as
As lucrative, yeah.
Okay. Tell you now and wait till we get some.
Some more guidance on that, yeah.
Why don't you do this,
Yeah,
the 500?
Bill and Mike and Langdon, I've already sent an email to a colleague of mine. I suggest, why don't you put together a list of what you want to do? And then Langdon, his team, and if you would like, our Harris Beach team can look at and tell you, you can do this, you can't do that. And then next month you can make a final decision. So if we can possibly get a list of what you want to do, we can then overlay that, what is authorized under state law, and then come back to you.
I'm relatively comfortable. Actually, Russ, I'm comfortable with them voting now.
Yeah.
And then you and I will vet it. But I'm pretty comfortable, and in fact, I'm back and forth with the Commissioner of Finance, and I'll stand corrected. It's $250 per, so you could do the 500 and separate $250s.
Okay.
For investment vehicles.
Not institution, that's correct.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, this is just.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a great conversation.
So, again, we'll go over this, we're briefly again, if we do 250 in Orange Bank and Trust in the 9-month, we could also do potentially in Orange Bank and Trust at the 6-month.
Correct. Yeah.
We already have accounts with them, we already have a business relationship with them. And then do 250 in the Greater Bank at 36 months and 250 in the Empire State Bank, 36 months.
It changes OBT from 9 months down to 6 months.
No,
we're doing both.
Both,
Okay.
250 for 9 months and 250 for 6 months. Yep.
Mhm.
Good start. You know, I mean, we could say that I think it checks a decent box that says we're doing our fiduciary responsibility and getting some of this money to work for us. We've already voted on another $1 million that we can use at a future date, and we can potentially do that next month or at any special meeting with, say there's a special, a Christmas savings club special, those type of things. And we'll ask staff to continue to monitor these rates and, present them to us on an as-needed basis. And we can always make more decisions, and we can always increase our limits, we can always do that, but I think this is a good start. What does everyone think? Everyone feel comfortable with that?
Commissioner Howell was saying, don't worry, the banks will collateralize it. They know the rules. They're not gonna.
Yeah. Okay. And then, if we start doing that and having more relationships, we may open up some more eyes, to us in regards to, hey, maybe there's a jumbo CD rate, maybe there's something out there that they would offer, especially to us, knowing that being a public benefit corporation, maybe there's those type of things that are out there that we just don't know about yet. Maybe there's a certain period of time that they want investments to happen, they might bump us a rate or something like that. Okay, I feel very comfortable with that. Does everyone else? Yep. All right, so I'll make the motion for the 4 $250,000 investments as described before. I'd like to get a second. Thanks. Discussion? Bill, roll call on the first $1 million investments.
Okay, Torelli,
Yes.
Dowd,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Burry,
Yes.
Yuskevich.
Yes.
5-5.
We'll revisit this again next month. We'll continue to look at rates and different investment vehicles, and we'll get opinion of council on some of the remainder stuff that's out there, because some of that 36-month is some of the other stuff. Pretty cool. All right. With that, we'll go to the next agenda item, which is our budget presentation. I'll ask Bill to take this over and present the budget as we talked about at our last finance committee meeting. We talked about a lot of these different line items. This was sent to you, so hopefully you had a chance to review it.
I just want to make sure everyone has a hard copy in front of them too. I did distribute together OCIDA and OCFC. So OCFC is 1 page, the other is 2 page.
So we'll be talking about the IDA one, it's a 2-page, revised 10/17/21. And it has the various line items, such to try to stay consistent. And in this instance, while this is a snapshot, it's something that we budget for. If we decide to go above and beyond or do anything different, we'll amend that as we see fit in the future. Also know that everything that we spend, we have expenses on, we vote on as a group together as already. So that's another, I'll say, fail-safe or another check mark that we can do when we need to. In this budget, while I'm not extremely happy that it's showing a $543,000 loss, I can at least say, we can at least say that what's being presented is less of a loss than it was previously, which I think is one of our goals.
Expenses are down $2.3 million.
And
So
that's
John had pointed out in the
2.3
previous
million.
meeting that on the revenue side, the $2 million is coming from Warwick, which we don't expect to have that same situation again. So that throws that off the delta there a little. But on expenses, we all together, that's a big deal. So you've seen most of this, just so you know what the difference between draft 1 and draft 2 is. I broke out, on your request, broke out some line items so that they're explicitly listed. Local labor auditing was one, legal fees was another, and there are a few other examples where I did try and make that, again, a little more clear. You see what everything it is. In the electronic version, you'll start to see how I work when it comes to this. I do a lot of work in Excel, and I will use the notes for each Excel, each cell themselves. So I have them, I can answer anything, but they are in your Excel version, if you look at that as well. All these are things we talked about. Let's see, interest earnings, should have that interest earnings on investment fund balances, like what we're doing here. Covered funds, again, was just for Warwick in this case. Nothing's changed with salaries and benefits. They've updated the CFO bookkeeping based upon what our engagement is with the current engagement letter with UHY. It's where I calculate a lot of that, just because that's what we're with. See, professional fees. This is a much lower amount than it was because I took so many things out of them and they're in their own line items. CFO services, minutes taker, that's not its own, but that would be an admin person. Cost benefit analyses, I broke that out. Again, finance assistant, like what assistant UHY is doing. Our labor auditors, that's been broken out. Paris reporting, et cetera. So really now,
Yeah, and a big key here as we're going down through this is something that we really haven't discussed too much. Okay? Man, if we're looking at a $543,000 loss in this budget, there's a big line item here in the projects and programs called Shovel Ready program. Okay? Now that is something that we have yet to vote upon or discuss or think about. But more importantly, I think we've recognized the success of the Warwick project and how our little bit of seed money and or matching money to help, in this case, a municipality take a piece of property that was derelict, something that couldn't be done, so they turn it into 100 times in type of capital investment is key. That is something we may want to consider next year, and we're budgeting $300,000 for that. Granted, we haven't come up with the program yet. So, with that, if we don't use that and we don't expend it within fiscal year 22, 543 goes down to 343, which is a major difference, but that's something that we want to iron out maybe in a committee meeting. We'll put our hands together, throw some ideas out there, whether we want to mimic the same exact thing that we did before, whether we want to do something, smaller, medium, you name it, we want to do multiple. That's something that I think helps produce jobs and helps produce commercial tax rateables. It's exactly our mission, right? So that's something that, I don't want to catch you off guard, but that's something that is an idea, but it's not voted upon yet. It's not a physical program yet. So it's something that
And with that said, Mr. Chairman, I could very easily change that label so it's just a generic new program. It could be something like that, kind of like the approach we did with the agent. So it doesn't have to be named Shovel Ready, because as you said, we haven't discussed it at length and voted upon it, but it could be a generic label as well, but I want to put some money aside.
That's key.
Investment. Accelerated project, that was capital expenditures, not planning any of that. Research and support, this is one of these line items where it was very difficult to find out really what it was. And I have 20,000, to be quite honest, that's a bit of a fudge number. It's kind of, could be used for other things. Didn't really try and do that much, but because that was a line item I couldn't identify, that few bucks. Rent, this is all based on certain assumptions, nothing for Newburgh, nothing for Highland Falls, leaving 3 out of the 5 Avenue of the America buildings in New Windsor, staying in Middletown through November of 22 and staying in Crowley through that time. Utilities, based upon same assumptions there. Insurance, that's accelerators plus the headquarters. Repair and renovations, this is really a little amount I put in there for any small repairs to the accelerators, as well as any alterations of Fort Crotty to potentially bring in another tenant to kind of cohabitate that space with us. It's something we've been talking about. So I have a little in there. Maintenance, this is another line item that's kind of moved around. Maintenance really includes cleaning, snow, lawn, trash, et cetera, at the headquarters and accelerated location. That's because we have in the matrix of rent and such and cost that I've shared with you for our accelerator, all our locations, we have all those items in there. So, and they're kind of totaled in there. So I have it under one line item for all those types of expenses, and I've removed them from other, like cleaning is included in that now. It's a little more work to really break all that out of what we have in our accelerator-based spending. So I did take it out and I put it all on maintenance because those figures all go together. Cleaning, so nothing in there. Internet and phones, this is internet and phones at Crotty, Middletown, New Windsor, and Warwick.
I put a star next to that one in my own eyes because as an industrial development agency, paying $27,720 for internet and telephones. Pretty significant. That means that we're doing that so that others don't have to. Basically, I mean, yeah, we have our staff and, stuff, but that's a big number. Most IDAs throughout the state do not have that number. So it's something that as we talk about these programs that we're doing, that's something that I'm going to look to potentially ask staff to try to minimize to a point. That's, I think, as we see it today, a snapshot as we see it today for next year, but that's something that we can work on during the course of the year.
And we do have opportunities. Some of those contracts are coming due in 22, and we'll be able to get out of those. Like we have a fiber contract that's just
goes on, yes.
Really. Before then down from there, IT support and AV, kind of the work that Dean's doing with us and some others. Marketing and PR, I have a good amount of money in there, frankly, because we have marketing collateral. I think we need to get back to attraction marketing, working with the partnership and others, and really collaborating on that. We have dated material that has all the old staff and board leadership in there. So I think that's something that I put $15,000 for new marketing collateral. And then I think this is where we need this help more than ever right now. We need to remarket. We need to re-educate the public. So I do have money in there for monthly expenses for help with digital marketing, a little bit for copywriting, and also that includes like ads we have. Like we have an ad with Hudson News. A lot that's in that marketing PR number. Memberships, this is formally in marketing and PR, and I broke it out. Essentially, this really has New York State EDC, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about, in the Orange County Chamber, and I just put one other generic one in there if we decided we wanted to join the Association of Industrial Users, things like that. There are other associations that we could see a benefit, but I just had that in there so that that's the decision. Training and education, that's board and staff trainings. I do have that itemized in one of the tabs that you have in your Excel. And then another change from draft 1 to draft 2, external projects and programs, AKA agents. So rather than having in their line items for past funded agencies, Friends of the Youth Bureau, for example, Women's Enterprise Development Center, something like that, we have a budgeted amount that you can approve tonight. We can change that number and adjust it. You see it's cut significantly, so it would be cut to one or more of those agents if you leave that number in. But that way you approve that number, and then what we were planning, we have a lot to cover here tonight, of course, planning in 2 subsequent meetings, our next board meeting and or the next finance meeting, which is one of my items. If you want to just nail that date down, we have these applicants present at those times.
Yeah. So that's stuff that could potentially be even lessening. We didn't have that much as an expense in 2021 because they didn't do as much, or they weren't directly aligned with our mission. So those are things that we'll discuss individually as they present them. But So this is like a, it's, while it's showing a $543,000 decline or loss, this is plus or minus 300,000, plus or minus 110,000. As you get down to it, it's almost a zero-based budget, meaning it's almost like we're planning to spend what we're taking in, which I think is, a very good thing in regards to our credibility back in line. I really like the budget. I thank staff for putting it together, everyone who worked on it at the last committee meeting. And with that, any other things on the budget?
That's it for this one.
So discussion, anything, anyone like to change anything, do anything? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the budget as presented. Leslie? Second?
I'll second.
John? Discussion, any other thing? Like I said, this is a snapshot. We can always amend it later on if we need to. All right, we got a first and a second. You want to call the roll on the budget?
All right, Torelli.
Yes.
Thierry.
Yes.
Dowded. Yes. Tamburri.
Yes.
Riskevich.
Yes.
5 ayes.
All right, next we have is the September, October payables. So that's in your staple packet after our minutes. Beginning on page 5, we have some that are reoccurring that we've previously talked about, but we'll ask Bill to make a presentation on that, as well as the monthly contracts and the all other category.
Yeah, we
That's
do-
kind of, I hate to say, it's kind of like Wheel of Fortune, like all other.
Right. So most, in recurring, you're seeing, our typical expenses, electric, phone lines, fax, copier, both the lease payment and the copy count, trash and recycling, what else? Rent and cams, office cleaning, and down at the bottom, we have some Ethernet wireless, again, internet access that, some is for, if you look at the dates in the second to last column to the right, some are for 2 months, whether, we continue to have problems with the timing of our approvals and the checks and this, that, and the other, and we're trying to get that straight with you and with these companies. But really, this is typical, a high amount, for Frontier, but again, that's for multiple months, and that's one of the contracts we're looking to renegotiate once that comes due. Water cooler, and we do have the credit cards and late fees and interest, and let's see, we have pest control and all that stuff. So really, nothing out of the ordinary here in recurring.
All right, so let's, any questions on recurring, any line items you want to talk about? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept recurring building services on pages 5 and 6 as presented. Second? Second. All right, Bill, any discussion? Any issues? Call the roll on that, please.
Torelli.
Yes.
Dowded. Yes. Thierry.
Yes.
Tamburri.
Yes.
Riskevich.
Yes.
5 ayes.
All right. Page 7.
Make sure I don't have it out of order. If both people are
Yep.
something I have.
Mhm.
So this is for local auditing, for site visits and reporting, as you see. This is for a number of projects, Legoland, GAM, which is King's Act, an expansion there on Police Drive in Goshen. 360 Middletown Holdings, that's a fish company, processing company on Crystal Run Road. Orange Inn, Green Thumb, they just started that in all their monthly reporting. So this is for our local labor auditing for the month with Loki Grill. That's what we have for.
Concerns? Entertain the motion to accept.
Make the motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
Thanks, Paul. Bill, call the roll now, please.
Okay. I'm sorry, that was John and Paul, right?
Mhm.
Okay, Torelli?
Yes.
Doughton?
Yes.
Thierry?
Yes.
Riskevich?
Yes.
Tamburri?
Yes. Page 8, all other category.
Right, all over. This is credit cards, which the large charge there is our Dropbox, which is really our cloud-based server, where we save all of our documents and such. So that's renewed at $1,200 a year. We did reduce the number of licensed users, so that did go down. I want to say it was just over $2,000. It's down to $1,200. And our monthly payment for our G Suite, email, and some of these other electronic subscriptions. Let's see, the crime policy, That is on there. We talked about this. We are reapplying. We're working with our insurance broker to reapply for that based on the number of employees we have now. That seems to be the only variable by which the premium, can go down. So we're working on that. We did see you authorized a check though, knowing that we would get a reimbursement. Based on the timing of that, our broker reached out to us and says, you know what? It's not when you postmark your check, it's when it's received. They asked us to cancel that check and do an ACH, which is something we for that same amount. But so same in effect, but just so you know, that check is not going to actually be cashed. And again, once we reapply, they'll adjust the premium. We'll get a refund. I'll keep it. What else is on there? And then we did have an overpayment of. We had one accelerator client at 603 Broadway. I shared with you. Got a full-time job and decided to leave the accelerator. She was on an auto pay that just was not, it was a mistake, was not turned off, so she was auto paying a few extra months. So this is reimbursement for the 3 months of
Questions, concerns? Entertain a motion to accept the all other on page 8. Leslie, second? Dean? Go for the roll on that? Yeah.
Corelli.
Yes.
Dowd. Yes. Tiaria.
Yes.
Sambury.
Yes.
Riskevich.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're getting right through this.
Great.
All right. Jump into my report. I'll say it's gonna be a brief report, but we have a lot of stuff that we've just done. And will be some major things that we're gonna be talking about moving forward down the, line items, after Bill gives his management report and any new business. We're gonna talk about unfinished business, about our accelerators that are coming due in New Windsor. And we're gonna talk about, we already talked about the investment portion of the IDA balance. And then I believe we're gonna go into executive session to talk about, personnel. With that, we're not making a presentation in front of the E&E this month, because it's more focused on budgeting. And since we're not accepting any funds we don't have any funds coming from the county, it's less of a presentation we have to make. But what I would ask, is once, everyone settles down and you have enough time, I'd like to be able to send the budget, as we just recently approved, to the E&E committee and literally to everyone in the legislature so they can see it and they can have it and if they have any questions on it, they could always ask when we present. Not something, I don't know if it was done in the past or not, but it's open and transparent. We just voted on it. Anyone can get it, but I think it's a good idea to let them see it and let them see the good work that we're doing so that they know exactly how we're bringing in money and how we're spending money. We'll continue to make presentations to the E&E committee and anybody else or any other committee that's needed of that. And we'll look forward to continuing to work with them. With that, we don't have a real update per se today on any new appointees. But as you know, all of our terms are coming due at the end of this year. I think over the next month or two, I'll ask Paul to keep us updated as they put stuff on the agenda for potentially reappointing some of us if we want to. I know I made it public that I wanted to be reappointed for a 1-year term and whatnot. And I'm sure that the legislature is going to have others that maybe want to do it as well, maybe some of us as well. But with that, I'd ask for Paul to make a, just let us know when that happens. We'll see it basically because it goes through the E&E committee first and then to the full legislature. So it's all a public process, just like it was for all of us.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll do that before the end of the year. They may wait till the January, but we all serve until we're replaced. I'll have a better idea for you next month.
Yeah, I'm sure as you caucus and as you figure all that stuff out, and whatnot. And then lastly, some of the stuff that we've already voted on today is actually newsworthy, right? It's, we did a budget that is probably the best budget the IDA has done in over a decade, I would say, maybe more. I think we've done some stuff, and we're going to be doing some stuff on the next agenda items. What I'd like to be able to do is to get everyone to think about how we want to present some of this to our constituency, to the folks. We just don't want people to listen and then just report. I'm not a big advocate for like calling the media or giving them personal quotes of mine or whatever, but I'd like to be able to, for us to work with staff and whoever else to put together some press releases about the positive stuff that we're doing, because without that, no one's going to know about it. We're not gonna get our credibility back, or this organization's not gonna get back without doing so. I think the first thing that I would ask staff to work on is a press release on our budget. You know, there's some major stuff that we've just passed on that I think we all can be very proud of, and hang our hats on. And it's something that not only the public should know, our elected officials should know, our supervisors and mayors should know. But with that, I'd like to be able to ask staff to put that together and get that out as quick as possible. And then, as time permits, and as we potentially hire a CEO and such, I'd like to be able to have that person and or whoever else would like to attend, literally go on, I don't want to call it a circuit, but go on a speaking engagement. Maybe go speak to the supervisors and mayors, the associations of towns type of meeting. Maybe some of the larger rotaries or civic organizations that have members that are business members, maybe even a chamber presentation or something like that. Maybe something in front of the partnership board and or their investorship, so that they can understand that we've corrected stuff. We've put policies in place and that what's happened in the past will never happen again. At least under our reign. It's something I think we all want to work on, but it's something I think that we should maybe focus on between now and the end of the year and get some of this stuff done. So press releases out. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do sometimes. Some people don't have great writing skills. I'm one of them. And maybe we need to get someone to help us with that, whether if it's we lean on the county a little bit more to help just wordsmithing and doing stuff that we think, but more importantly, we have people that are under contract that can help us with that. And I think we can get some very positive news out there, both socially and to our elected officials, so that we have less of a issue moving forward when we want to do stuff even more.
It's critically important, and it's one area where we need to improve upon.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yep. And lastly, as we get projects and projects that are currently under construction, I would like to be able to have staff get a banner to put up on those projects, on those construction fences that say that this project was helped and incentivized by the Orange County Industrial Development Agency.
There is a sign, so I did look into
There is one down in Warwick, right?
Right there. It's not very big.
Yeah, let's get something that's, you know, like a Mylar sign that's gonna withstand the weather. We can clip it to the things, put it on their construction trailer, put it wherever we want to put it. But more importantly, so when people go by that project, they can see that, oh, wow, that's what the IDA does. Oh, wow, all my cousins are already gonna start working there. Maybe they're building the place. Maybe they're gonna work there full time. Maybe they're putting supplies for the place. Because without that, honestly, I bet you 85–90% of people have no idea what we do. Let's have to do that. That's all my report. I'll hand it over to Bill for his manager report.
Terrific. My first subject here is the accelerator update, but I'll wait on that until we get done finished business.
Yes.
That's one of our line items, obviously. Just on some transactions, I mentioned the Warwick LDC. That reimbursement is in the works, so by the next board meeting, you should have been reported to that money is. We have St. Luke's Cornwall Hospital. That transaction, some of the behind the scenes, Russ is involved heavily with that, with their forbearance, the re-agreement there, and the new agreements required for that. That's a lot of paperwork, a lot of communication that keeps coming on that, but we're getting there, almost done with that.
It's closed.
Here from the cap. Closed?
It's closed.
Done.
Mike, thank you for your patience in the document flow.
Yeah, that was, I never signed my name so much in my entire life.
Well,
I thought it was fine.
and honestly, to your credit and Bill's credit, we, the IDA board, and frankly, Harris Beach, were stuck in the middle between St. Luke's and their lenders, and the documents kept on changing and being updated. So I appreciate your patience, but it is closed.
The Castle Fun Center, they were approved for benefits for their expansion in Chester, and COVID and a number of things put that on the shelf. They contacted us. They want to now continue with their project. They have changed it a little bit. So Russ and I discussed it. A lot of time has gone by. I think this is one of the desires of this board is to I think reapprove some things when you can. And what we had come to after much discussion was really requesting that the Castle write us a letter saying that they wish to utilize these benefits now. Here's what the delay has been. Here's what are any substantive changes to what their plans are, and give us the first review. I didn't think they necessarily need to provide a new application, but a letter where they're stating those facts and give you the opportunity to bless it on your own. So we're headed. So expect to have that letter for our next board meeting. Okay.
We don't like with any applicant, they're always welcome to come in and make a presentation if they want. Not that we have a lot of following or a lot of viewers. I think, three of our, one of our viewers is always here, and others, but it's out there and they're always welcome, to come in front of us. It's not a necessity per se unless we literally request it.
Absolutely. Highland Falls, this is frankly more OCFC, but we had to push them off. Our investment discussion ran long, so we had a gentleman that was prepared to talk more about that project. And actually, Maureen and I heard more of them today because we were in an Empire State Development meeting. We heard about it.
That was for the facade restoration?
Correct. Again, OCFC. So we can invite him back in November if you like, or if you want to wait a little further. We had him originally scheduled for last month because they were requesting another disbursement. So that's why, with the timing of that. We could wait till they request it again. There's another $5,000 out of the total $45,000 remaining. So we could have them back next month if time allows. I'm just want to see what things shake out in terms of our agenda.
Do you think any of these new applications that are going through the consolidated funding application are going to request our help? Any possibilities out there? You don't have to answer today.
Possibly.
Take a look at it, and because it's just it's a different type of transaction. It's not something that we've seen yet.
Right.
We inherited the one from Highland Falls, and I think it's a good project. I haven't been down there in a little bit. I'm planning to go to the Army game on Saturday, so I'll make sure I get through there. We'll see how that works. But there's, any way that, either us, maybe it's a legislature. I don't know. I don't know what the right vehicle is, but okay.
Let's see what's on here. Not sure if this is my area, but council search, of course, we have 3 interviews scheduled for next week for general counsel. We also have the bond counsel, what do you want to call it, posting, an RFP prospectus, what do you want to call that? That's out there. I believe the deadline on that is the 29th of this month. Pretty sure that's what the deadline is. So we are, expecting to have a few of those that we'll start scheduling this. The Harris Beach certainly we did receive from their desire to continue this. Appreciate that. We submitted a Paris report. You may recall Harris Beach helped us submit that several months ago now. We did, the Office of the State Controller does follow up typically, as I understand, with questions on your report, this, that, and the other. We had about 10 questions that were asked. I was a little nervous about that, 10 things in the record report. They made it very clear as to Harris Beach that it happens all the time. Many of these have 20+ questions. And we've gotten most of those answered. We have a few things that we need to go to the local municipalities and their assessors, verifying pilot values, things like that. We're working, and we did tell them that we're shorthanded, explain what we've been through. They've been very understanding. And,
our budget is part of that, right? We have to submit our budget to the.
We do. In November, we need to actually.
So
that's not part of what this question of the prior.
But now that it's passed, you can submit.
Yeah, that's really what our push was to get it approved before the 17th of next month. Paris as well, and I did also include. I think I handed them out some articles. You asked for a reading. There is an op-ed on our state senator and his desire to reboot economic development as we know it. And an article that was in the New York Times about Legoland, New York. Many of us local economic developers and county officials were interviewed for that, and I don't think any of our quotes were included. A number of us were not happy about the way that article came out, but I do generally think it's benign, some good, some bad, and I think it's over, frankly. The project is tremendous. Legoland has been incredible success already, despite the one arm tied behind the back with COVID, et cetera. Demand is really through the roof for the hotel. They're meeting, they're up to capacity with the park. It will be closing just after Halloween, by the way. That's how it is. But the hotel will remain open through the whole year. And there also, Legoland has been in discussion. A lot of relationships that we helped forge originally, but they have been in discussion with other area recreation and amusement offerings, really, to be able to promote those to their people that are coming to stay in December. Let's say at the hotel, they can do things indoors at other attractions. So that's the kind of benefit and the kind of ancillary boost that we were hoping when Legoland came, and that hoping that they would operate with that spirit, and they have. They really actually stepped it up with some locals the off-season. So that's that.
Feel free to have you or Kelly, whenever you get these articles, you can email them to us right away. Whether we want hard copies or not, it doesn't matter to me, but like, if you see something that's economic development or specifically OCIDA or OCFC mentioned, send it out, because not all of us probably.
The problem is with some of them is that you don't have accounts for them, so you can't open it yourself. But what I think I need
Print
to
it,
do is
scan it,
do this,
take a
scan
PDF
it,
and
send
yeah.
it back out. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And New York State EDC, New York State Economic Development Corp., that is really our state association. I've referenced them a couple times. They did have a fall conference. It's usually in the spring. It's in the fall because they didn't do it all last
I heard
year.
we were a topic of conversation.
We were actually, there are a number of general sessions, a number of breakout sessions. I attended about 4 breakout sessions. The first one was on governance, and the whole session was a case study on Orange County IDA. They did.
I hope that in a year or so, they redo that case.
Absolutely. They did finish, I will tell you, by commenting, and these were people from the Office of the State Controller who was involved in the investigation and such, and some other folks, and they did comment that this new board has gone a long way to reverse what's happened, to clean things up. They did make sure to tell the audience that, so I could kind of not slink in my seat quite as much. But it's okay. You know, I brought it up in the general session, really what we've been through and the need to re-educate the public on not just the work of this IDA, but of IDAs in general. We all need to work together on that. And that's something the state association can really help with. I think I distributed a little bifold brochure to give you a sense of what EDC is. I do believe I have, in all my time in economic development, think that it's a valuable organization, especially for IDAs. I got a lot out of it going there. I made a number of contacts in this very small pool of other IDAs in the state. It's great to have colleagues you can call. I've done that already a few times. I met some of our neighbors I didn't get a chance to in the past, Rockland IDA, for example. It was very, very helpful when it came to that. The bumper stickers are courtesy of them, so I thank them for that as well. And also something I'm going to share with you tomorrow. I tried to do it. I see it was in my outbox again. But they came up with a new impact tool, which allows you to look at economic development projects, IDA projects from all over the state, and they provide all the metrics on them, what the economic impact is. It's a really interesting tool. There are some little quirks to it. I'm seeing, I know they're arguing those out, but I'm going to share that with you. It's a really interesting tool and another example of something that certainly will, I'm sure, always advocate that we're members there and we participate in the training and other guidance that they can offer. There's a lot of advocacy on behalf of all the IDAs in the state.
Do any of the other local IDAs attend?
Town of Montgomery was there. That's it from our local IDAs. But
One of the things we might want to think about is maybe having get to know the other IDAs, so that, because sometimes they're going to bump stuff to us because they don't feel comfortable with, or they don't have the capacity to, especially like say on the bond financing side of things. Let's get to meet them and let's schedule that maybe within the next 3 months. Easier for everybody. That includes all the IDAs that are existing in the county.
Chamber used to do that, you know, I think that's it. Besides the accelerator, that's it for my report.
Awesome. Any new applicants?
No, I have talked to a number of potential applicants, and I do expect 1 or 2 applications in the next month or so. That's what I've been told to expect. But I've talked to a food and beverage manufacturer. I've talked to a couple of large industrial developers that are planning big projects in the area, and they are interested in.
We're seeing a lot of stuff. We're seeing a lot of stuff at the local planning board level that's starting to put their applications in. So I would imagine that, I would think within the next couple of months, they'll start talking to us, hopefully. In the right way.
That's it for me.
Okay. With that, we're going to move into unfinished business. Unfinished business, we have a topic that we need to discuss because we, as you know, we are the tenant to multiple locations in regards to basically our accelerators and our home office. We're at Friday Lane. In this instance, I'd like Bill to present the leases that are coming due. I think we've seen this in the past with our big spreadsheet. There are 3 out of the correct me if I'm wrong, 3 out of the 5 buildings in New Windsor that are
Correct.
coming due at the end of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll start with New Windsor.
Yeah.
You may recall, I had a meeting with the town supervisor 2-3 months ago, telling them our situation and really our desire that, all things considered, we wish to, really what we'd like to see happen is they become the landlord of the properties. They become the landlord with our tenants in New Windsor. The meeting with Mr. George Myers, the supervisor, was very positive. He's very amenable. Really wanted to work it out. Brought in their town attorney, even someone, an investigator from the police department, and the assessor for the town, and they're all going to work on this. We did check on them because we want. We certainly can appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. We want to have some movement on here because the leases are expired at the end of this calendar year on 12/31. And if the town is not going to be able to come to terms that work mutually with our subtenants, then we want to be able to give them notice that we're not going to be there and they're not going to be there. We want to give them sufficient. So that was understood. It's taken a little longer than we had hoped, but the town has been engaged. I know for a fact they've visited all of these spaces, they've made sure that they want to know what the condition is. They've looked at all the finances I've shared of what we pay for utilities, what our subtenants pay us, and I think negotiations are imminent now. I have continued to stay in touch with our accelerator clients in these locations, and I have expressed that although we do desire to not be the landlord anymore, that I explained that the board really impressed upon me that I'm in my meetings with the town that we want to be sure that we want to take care of these clients. We don't want to just tell them, we can work something out, you have to be out in 30 days. It's not going to work for most of these clients, especially manufacturers, big equipment. So I do believe in my meetings with the town and the way they responded that they share that, and they did express some of that to some of the clients that they visited. So I don't think if they can't come to terms, I think they're going to work with us in terms of giving them a little time to get out. I'm not saying it's 6 months or more, but so that again, within, they don't decide, hey, we're not going to come to terms, and it's December 1st, and say you got to get out by the end of the month. We don't want to put them in that position. We don't really want to be causing that, and it seems that the town is definitely understanding.
So a question I have, did they offer or did they ask us or did they give us any terms that they would want us to renew on, or no, never got to that point?
It didn't. Frankly, I didn't express that was our desire, so I think this is our first opportunity. We're not just trying to leave everyone high and dry, as I keep saying, but by attrition, I think we want to get out when we can, and we can't legally do so otherwise. And this is our first opportunity to be out of 3 of the 5 buildings, as you said. And then by the middle of next year, the other 2 leases expire.
So in this instance, I'd like to halt this conversation, right? I'd like to be able to talk just specifically about these 3 leases that we have coming due. And I think that we looked at the spreadsheets numerous times and in committee and at board meetings. And these tenants have been in there for a while. So I think it's about time that, in my opinion, I think we should consider not renewing these leases for these 3 buildings. Like Bill said, it's not like we're walking away. We have not only us as an entity that can help them, and the partnership that can help them, and the chamber that can help them, and council of industry that can help them, and you name it, NYSERDA can help. I mean, and there's tons of help out there. But it's, I think, time that I think we need to make a decision, and I'm for making a decision tonight, yes or no, to keep these 3 buildings or not. In my opinion, I'm ready to divest from them. I think that these entities can stand on their own, given, hopefully in that location, but if not, maybe in another location. If they cannot do it in that location, we would look to ourselves and our partners, our economic development partners, maybe to help them find some additional space someplace else on their own that they can pay for, and pay for their own utilities, and pay for their own phone, gas and electric, and insurance, and, a lot of these have been in there for a decent amount of time. Like I said, it could be very much a good success story if they continue on this path. But, some may not, and we have to be prepared for that. But in this instance, I'm prepared to vote on that today. I'd like to open the discussion to get everyone's opinion on that.
How long have they been there?
The big matrix shows when we started the leases, which was about 5 years ago.
Yeah, let's see, we've, original date of occupancy on, Mellow, which is, they manufacture bags, guitar straps they've gotten through, so they've been in there since May of 2017. Becco Silkscreen Company, they've been in there since December of 18. Lamberti Handbags, and this is the one where, their space was kind of encroached upon by another tenant, thanks to previous management allowing that to happen, really causing that to happen. Lamberti's been in there since November of 18. Now they're an Italian handbag company, all of COVID. Well, Italy was shut down. They have not been present. And then the last one is Informed Lightworks. They're in like a small, the garage, like a very small room. They've been in there since November 19. That is, if I'll just stop on that, Informed Lightworks. Two-person company, two RPI grads developing innovative lighting, receptacles and such, high-end, basically. They wrote a letter to the chairman and the board saying that they feel like that they're right there, that they're ready to really launch, and they're worried that the rug is being pulled out from under them. So the chairman did invite them to come present, and I extended that invitation. They really said they appreciated that greatly. They'd rather not come here and present. They were really encouraging the board to come pay a visit to their location in New Windsor. How and when we could do that.
And that's that garage where we're paying over $34 a square foot.
Exactly. They're in a
We're paying 24 and they're reimbursing us very. But maybe that's not the right spot for them. Obviously, I think a startup does not need to be in a square foot space. But, you know, like I said, if we decide to divest from these, not walking away from anybody. We're gonna either they stay there with New Windsor, and hopefully New Windsor can consummate a deal with them, or if not, we'll work with our partners to find them spaces. No, we'll do site searches and different things, and maybe there's some space out there that is a lot more affordable than $24 a square.
The other color I'd like to add is that they've all been here 2+ years. That was always the understanding, and usually in their agreements that subtenants, it's a 2-year deal, and then you graduate out.
Yeah.
And many of us around the, kind of in orbit of the IDA, we're asking those questions. When is anyone graduating out? And then the previous administration kind of changed the tune, and they started talking about graduating in. Companies will stay there, but they never left. So, I appreciate all of these companies are doing. They're Mellor, for example, one of the more successful accelerator clients we have. They have probably 12 or 13 employees.
That's great.
Yeah, some from Newburgh, mostly coming from Middletown. He's struggling with everyone else to try and find enough people, but they have had a lot of support here. I think every client will tell you, hey, we've had broken promises from the accelerator because they promised a lot and they didn't get the kind of support that they long before us. They didn't get it, but there's no question some of the support, including subsidized rent. There's equipment that's been made available to them that if we get out of this site, we may have to sell that at a competitive rate to one of these companies. My point is they've gotten a lot of support. They've been here a while. They're not all growing and adding jobs as is a requirement in their agreement. So I want to take some of the guilt away. And again, I've been as upfront as I can be and continue to be. And I often tell them my other hat, that I put on my day job is helping them find somewhere else to come to that. So we try to be as supportive as possible. And I don't want to say they've overstayed their welcome, but it's definitely beyond what was expected from the original agreement.
The other item also discussing is that even for anyone, some of these rates are, it's not the right location for those amounts per foot, et cetera. That is the issue that's why it really has to be cheap.
Well, that stuff is way above Class B at best market.
Right. I'm saying to myself that to me is like one of the main reasons. I mean, it's not just timing. I'm sure they can even find something we can talk about that, but that's overpaying is.
Great point, Dean. Thank you. John?
I mean, it fits with our pattern of action, right? So we review, measured, decisive, but, we'll work with these folks here. But I couldn't agree more with
Yeah, I do. I agree.
I'd like to make a motion to not renew our leases at the 3 buildings in question in the town of New Windsor, but also continue to work with New Windsor and them to either have them stay or find them additional locations. So with that, I'd like to make that motion. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Thanks, John. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Torelli,
Yes.
Dowdett,
Yes.
Thierry,
Yes.
Tamburri,
Yes.
Devich.
Yes.
5 ayes.
Rodak, join us at? No.
Not yet, I actually wanted to see if maybe he's waiting. I did ask for the text. Oh, here he is, good call. Dr. Odock, you there? Can you hear us?
Okay, yeah, let me see what I can. Okay, okay, join them, okay.
Did you have, listen to our discussion about the New Windsor, the 3 buildings?
Okay, I may not appear, but I think I can get, if I listen. Yeah, I said, join them, sign in. I have to sign in, right?
Aren't you in? It looks like I let you in. Looks like you're in the meeting, but your video is off.
Yeah, let's, oh, okay. Okay, yes.
We can hear you fine.
You hear me? All right, sure. Okay, sure. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I got out of the class a little bit late, that's why, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Frankly, until I admitted him, I don't think he heard any of that.
Okay. All right, with that, any other things you'd like to report on unfinished business?
Just with the other accelerators, in Middletown, we only have 2 signed leases so far. Others are asking the other questions, asking about additional support. I think they're trying to weigh their other options. I also want to know how much time they have if they elect not to leave. So I'm just having further discussions with them and you know, the time they have to stop. That's what's happening in Middletown. In Broadway, I have met with, I met today actually with the owners of the 2 buildings on Broadway. And I have to give these gentlemen credit. They really still want to try and find a way to make something work because they're out of the concern for the, there he is, out of concern for the tenants. We have not been paying rent there for the past several months for the same reasons that we're not in Highland Falls. We have 2 tenants remaining out of 3 in 603 Broadway. Those 2 tenants that remain do go there every week. That's the problem in some of the locations. If people aren't showing up, they're not using the spaces. In Middletown, for example, it's so desolate that people don't want to go in there, those that are engaged still. But on Broadway 603, we have 2 tenants that really, I hear from them every week, they want to see going because they really want to stick it out, and the landlord wants to make it work for them. In 605, we just have one tenant there who's having their own challenges. So the owners of these buildings, the Bloomers, they are looking to market vacant portions of the building so that they can bring in other tenants there. But they're interested in trying to find a way to keep these tenants that are there already and any I'll call orphan tenants from Middletown, let's say, that want to leave, and bring them in there. What we've agreed to do, we're not paying rent, as I said, but we're remitting to the Bloomers any rent payments we do get from our subtenants, so we're passing that along. And they have asked, in our meeting, it's not a formal request yet, but they'd like to help, they'd like to house some of these accelerator clients, let them pay the rent that they were paying, and have asked, is there any way the IDA can, through the end of the original term of the lease, could we pay for the CAMS charges and in order to subsidize that piece, and then rents being covered by the tenants themselves, and anything in the difference, their any office being there. This is really just coming out of our discussion this afternoon, late this morning. I give them credit because, again, they want to try and make it work. I don't think it's for selfish reasons. I have told them, and they have, I think they believe it. These buildings, we put $200,000 into refurbing them. They're in much better shape. The neighborhood's in better shape. The building next door has a law firm in it now. It had an empty building before that. Upper Broadway is more attractive. Newburgh itself is more desirable. So they could market these buildings and put people out, market these buildings and do a lot better. So I tell you, I do not believe that they're bringing any of these things up because it's a profit motive. They're trying to find a way to not hurt these businesses that, like them, like the landlords themselves, were kind of sucked into something that really didn't materialize. I just want to pass on that.
Knowing a few of those tenants, I think one of the things we probably ask staff to do, and we talked about this briefly, but let's maybe go to the next step with it. We can find them a mentor manufacturing company. Somebody's making widget X, and someone next town over is making that same widget or something like that. Maybe there's a way for the small company to be married to the large company. maybe even occupy space within them. Try to make some marriages if you can, because that may help. It may help just on the mentorship side of things, let alone the actual, you know, location of space and those types of things. I'll give a for instance, like if we know that, and I know this isn't happening, but say one of our accelerator tenants makes cardboard boxes, right? They make like 6 specialty ones, like beautiful looking ones, right? And then we probably have 6 cardboard box manufacturers in the county that are major, from President Container to you name it, there's a bunch of them. Well, maybe there's something there's a marriage there. Maybe there's some sort of synergy that we can maybe be the conduit for to help, you know? Maybe they would even occupy a couple thousand square feet in their big distribution, you know, in their big manufacturing space. Maybe they eventually joint venture and do something bigger and make that company grow. Who knows? But without looking at that, we don't know. Because they can't, you know, they're not going to be in an accelerator the rest of their lives. I mean, they have to grow or find a different business. I mean, really, it's what starting a business is all about. I would ask maybe staff to look into maybe finding, and specifically on the Newburgh ones.
Yep.
Because it sounds like there's probably a higher and better use for those buildings at a certain point, or a better return for them. And that's what those landlords need to make a determination on.
Now, how are those lease numbers? I mean, is it something where we could talk about moving some people around, and if the owner of this building wants to work with them, is that something we bring them into that area?
Well, that's what I've done. I've connected them, asking them to talk, and then the landlord last said to the clients, well, you know, we want to meet together with the IDA and see where they're going. And we met today and encouraging them to continue to try and work with those subtenants. But those clients in 603 and 605, 603, they're paying $250, $400, and then the one that left, that again was overpaid, was $200. And they're not paying a lot, and they're not paying any of their cans. That's the problem. No one is paying utility charges.
Or cell phone,
insurance,
or internet, and, you know.
Utilities, and all the utilities, exactly.
I like that free internet.
Right. And
Appreciate it.
then we have another client where the rent is $2,500 a month, but that client is behind.
And we're getting charged significantly higher than that by the landlord, which we decided not to pay because of potentially avoidable costs.
One piece of good news I should have mentioned in my update is that the Warwick Accelerator, there's 3 companies, two sets of owners. One set of owners owns 2 companies. And they're doing well, especially one scripted fragrance. They make candles. Again, they're in the Manor House in Warwick. And by the way, that's the location where we pay $1 for the entire term of our lease. Well, she's growing. She and her mom started the company, and they have now 3 full-time employees. They had a segment that was on CBS Sunday morning last year, and they had a huge push on orders as a result. Well, now that led to CBS and Etsy partnering on a kind of a vignette, a little highlight about that business that's going to be airing during the Macy's Thanksgiving Day. So they expect a huge boost there as well.
Right.
And we're going to help make some noise about that as well, something else for us. I want to say that some good news out of Warwick. That's one of our more successful companies.
Yeah. Right. Anything else on unfinished business, Paul?
No.
Okay. Any unfinished business by board or any questions in regards to that before we go into executive session? All right. With that, I'd like to enter a motion to enter into executive session to talk about personnel. That's a valid conversation, right? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may
Yeah.
I make a comment? Is that allowed?
Really not, but I'll allow. Go ahead.
If there are some, restrictions to it, maybe 3 minutes only, something prepared, something like that, because I've been here a couple of times and wanted to just share a couple things. One, we had our board meeting last night. The partnership board would like to extend an invitation to the IDA to our annual dinner. I'd like to pass that on through you and Bill, have you attend our annual dinner on December 7th. Back in the day, the IDA always came, hasn't for years. Love to have that back again. It's an invitation for you. And then Bill and I worked together as economic developers on many levels. When he was with the partnership, now with government, we really are a dynamic duo. And I just want to commend you on all the new changes that you're implementing and all the things that you're doing here, especially this shovel ready program. I just want to share with you, we drafted an entire shovel program at the partnership, if you want to see it. I can give it to you. We did, pass it along years ago, a couple of years ago, but it wasn't a priority for that particular board. If it is in the future for you, maybe we can be of service for you.
That'd be great. Thank you, Mark.
so much.
Thank you.
I don't want to overcomplicate it or start throwing mud, but I was there at the IDA headquarters when the presentation was made to push shovel ready. That presentation was absolutely sabotaged by prior administration. I know they told me. They went in and poisoned, to the chairman at the time, the name of one of the consultants that the partnership brought to the table for that. And they completely poisoned it. I know for a fact they told me themselves. So that never frankly had a chance. So that's why I am interested in trying to bring it back up.
All right, so with that, I'd like to enter into executive session and talk about personnel.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you, Maureen. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Once again, my name is Michael Torelli, the chairman of the Orange County Industrial Development Agency, and it's about 10 after 8 on Wednesday, October 20th. We're coming back in off of executive session where we had discussions in regards to personnel. This is back in live streamed, and we have, since we last came on, probably just before that, another board member, Dr. Vincent Odock, has joined us. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to entertain a resolution to hire Bill Fioravante as the CEO, Executive Director of the Orange County Industrial Development Agency, and then subsequently with that position as part of the OCFC, Orange County Funding Corporation. In regards to his employment, we're looking to hire him at a salary of $140,000 with a 3-month severance package without clause, a 0 severance package with clause, with the very basics of benefits package as afforded to all the employees of the OCIDA as in our schedule and our employee handbook. With that, making that motion, I'd like to receive a second, please. Any discussion? With that, I'd like Bill to place a, call the roll in regards to that resolution.
Mr. Corelli?
Yes.
Mr. Davitt? Yes. Ms. Pieri?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Wiskevich?
Yes.
Five ayes, motion passes.
Congratulations, Bill, and welcome aboard. We hope that you can give the county proper notice, work it out with them, and please just let us know.
Pardon, we let Vince out of the vote.
Oh, Vince, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Sorry.
My fault,
Yep.
Mr. Odock.
Vince, yes, no?
Yes,
Thank
Can
you.
you hear-
Sorry,
yes,
you were remote.
Yes.
Okay.
That's low there.
I said
So with
yes.
that, we have county proper notice, and then let us know. We'll ask council to put that in a offer letter to you so that you would have it for your files and for our files and to move forward with that. So we, good luck, and we look forward to continuing to work with you, but now in a different type of position. Instead of an agent, the idea you would be an attorney.
Thank you. Really appreciate the trust that you've shown in me, and I look forward to leading this organization to great heights together. Thanks so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yeah.
Any other further business for the Orange IDA? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.